core premises for the journey of the soul, where again, as anything in the soul's journey, the invitation is not to take what I say and decide or even think that you need to choose whether you agree or disagree, but rather engage in what is sometimes described as the core perspectival practice, which is try it on. Try looking at the world with these glasses. What does it feel like? What does it enable in you when you try that perspective? So much in this day and age, we listen to everything through, well, do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I agree? Do I disagree? And which is why we said one of the first moves is to create space. And one of the first ways to create space is to free oneself up from the need to immediately agree or disagree or even take a position about anything. Instead, we can try to experience what is a premise, a particular premise feels like, looks like, what it brings up in us, what it awakens, what it enlivens in us, and then later, maybe an hour later, maybe a year later, decide how you feel about it and whether you want to make it part of your way of seeing and engaging life. When we say that the soul is intimately connected with all the knowledge that exists on the planet, we're truly lifting up the word knowledge from what we associate with learning in school when we learn facts. Knowledge in the way of the soul, because we described in chapter 1, we described the soul as an intelligence loop. And when you dwell with that, I begin to see that everything carries knowledge. Because the soul reads the subtle energetic properties of everything. So every sound, every color, every object, every shape, every internal feeling, every registration of the environment, all of those, each and every one of those dimensions and elements, they carry knowledge. Every word carries knowledge, but it's not just a word, it's the intonation, it's a sound. So when we say the soul is intimately connected with all the knowledge that exists on the planet, we are inferring the full range is available by potential for the soul. Premise 1. Premise 2, the soul is equipped and ready to meet the challenges and opportunities of this time with all the know-how it needs. Well, you could say, but Aviv, I don't see it because I feel overwhelmed. I feel depressed by what you brought on the slide before. I don't feel at all that I have what it takes to meet the challenges. Well, so that's where we're making a distinction between the self of us that carry a history of struggle and pain and trauma, and also of overcoming struggle and pain and trauma, and the sense of fortifying. And we will describe in the future more closely the intimate relationship of how ultimately the soul raises the self, but the self has agentic, self-directed powers. The self really lives into the premise of thou mayest, that is to say, you can choose for yourself. And so the self of us may feel overwhelmed and tremendous sense of struggle. The soul still has latent in her the potential and the know-how to meet all that you may encounter in this lifetime and beyond. So that's premise 2 I'm proposing. Again, I'm proposing to contemplate this, not to put yourself under the pressure to agree or disagree. But what does it feel like when you embrace this idea that there is a part of you, an intelligence loom within you, an intelligence loom that accompanies you all the days of your life, including when you're asleep, never leaves you without, affords you all that you know to do, supports you every moment of your life, and that it has all that you may need to encounter the challenges in front of you. What does it feel like when you allow yourself to take that sense inside you, even to turn to your soul and tell your soul that you know that she is fully equipped? Then add to it premise 3. The soul is a reservoir, an immense reservoir, endless reservoir of immense creativity, profound healing, and renewal power. All the inventiveness and creativity that we see all around us, times million and million and million times more. So much more is available, and profound healing and renewal power. And then add to it premise 4, which is that the soul is inherently wired to learn, inherently wired to facilitate your development, inherently wired for the evolutionary process. We're saying 2 big things here. We're saying at the personal level, the soul is wired to facilitate our learning and development, and in the broader species context, the soul is wired to accommodate and support and afford the evolution of human life. And that's a very important idea, because through an epochal shift we have 2 options. To be binary for a minute, we can evolve through the shift, or we can devolve through the shift in a regressive, devolutionary line. And what we want is to unlock, facilitate the potential of evolution. So I promised that we will create some space in rooms. So Lisa, if we can have rooms ready for groups of 3s, 12 minutes, and the invitation is, well, you can chat with each other in rooms about whatever you want to chat about. However, I would like to invite you to specifically address the following. When you look at everything we covered so far today, and those 4 starter premises, the fact that the soul is intimately connected to all the knowledge there is, the fact that the soul is equipped to meet the challenges and opportunities of this time, the fact that the soul is a reservoir of immense creativity and healing, and that she is inherently wired to learn, to develop into the evolutionary process. As you think about these, what are you discovering that you see, that you observe, that you intuit, that's helping free the soul to its greater natural capacity? So Beth and range. So Beth talked to us a little earlier about range. And that's a very important idea. The soul, you want to liberate the soul to its fuller knowledge range, fuller creative and healing range. What is it that you know from experience, and you know a lot about what enables and supports the freeing up and the liberation of the soul's natural capacity and range? So, are we ready to dive into being with a stranger? I know it's always a little awkward because you're meeting with somebody you don't know, but we've now each and every one of us been initiated the last decades to do this on Zoom. Please, let's encourage each other, let's fortify each other, let's bring the voices, and let's parachute into rooms. We'll see you in 12 minutes. Thank you. And we are all back or forward here in the main room. Let's take just a few minutes to bring a few voices. If you were to harvest or distill one line, not a report about what happened in the room, but a sentiment or a sense or an insight, one line. So please, let's have a few voices.
Stage one, the process, the person finds himself in the cave of many emeralds for fortification and resilience, programming and fine-tuning. Having immersed themselves in the cave of many emeralds, the person becomes the cave of many emeralds and is then able to transfer and emanate from the cave of many emeralds so other people across the world can also become part of the cave of many emeralds as a moving, living liberation of core values moving into the future with the accompaniment of voices from the future whispering encouragement.
Thank you very much, Martin.
You're welcome.
The journey of becoming an embodied emerald. Please, Marianne.
We very much came to the idea that given that the soul has all the equipment and the structures and the connections, what is needed from us is trust. Trust in our senses, trust in our thinking, and belief in ourselves. And that is a way to access it.
Thank you. Trust is the initial primary plasma and presence that accompanies a life at birth and in the birthing of a new epoch. Thank you. Please, Sus.
What appeared was the love of music. Music can be a love because you can play an instrument, or you have never played an instrument and suddenly learn an instrument and realizing that you love doing it. And another aspect of music is that for those who never learned the beauty of learning an instrument, that finding the chair in the evening and just leaning back and listening to music playing can be a great liberation in yourself to listen to.
Thank you. And a great assistance to transition from being too preoccupied with thoughts to engaging the whole human theater. Please, Rita.
Your fully equipped soul will go with you wherever you find yourself on the planet. And the challenge is to find the opportunity and the know-how to find what in these different circumstances will liberate and light up and soothe and heal the soul.
You're inviting the consideration of a mutuality. The soul accompanies us. We can be a companion back to the soul, and in that dialogue and reciprocity is the story of discovery, of revelation, and of healing. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the last one, Amy, and then we'll re-engage with the premises of the soul and do a few more. Please, Amy.
May I invite Nigel? Because he was in the same group and I saw that his hand disappeared and I would like to give him the opportunity.
I put my hand down because you're there, Amy. So I thought we wouldn't have enough time. One thing that was a revelation to me, and I think it feels right, is there is a greater soul where all souls combine. And I'd never, ever thought about that before. But an awesome possibility, if we can connect to that greater soul, we're not alone then.
Thank you. Okay. A big conversation to be developed at some point. Wonderful. Let me do this. Let me bring this back. And, okay, so this is where we were before the break. And I decided during the time you're in rooms that there are 2 or 3 segments we won't have time to get to, which is all right. So we're going to skip you, but I do want to complete this slide, the 8 premises for the journey of the soul, where the invitation, the endeavor, is to take it from concept to discovery, all the way to embodied actualization. Premise 5 is the invitation to recognize, as we just talked about, that there is always supportive guidance from the soul. We may be engaged in unproductive habits. We may be engaged with a variety of experiences that can hold us back. The soul will do 2 things. The soul will, first of all, support our agentic choices. The self arises to be a free agent of the learning and expression of the soul. So the soul will support your choices. It will also gently nudge you towards better possibilities. So premise 5. Premise 6. The soul acts as your companion and navigator, guiding you along as you journey, especially in this time of epochal change, from the known into the unknown. So we may have difficulties and struggles and psychologies about moving from the known to the unknown. The soul doesn't. The soul deals with the unknown as part of its way of being. So this is why we propose the soul is the navigator companion for the journey. Premise 7, tethered to the spirit, the presence of the spirit ensures that your soul remains forever connected to the universe at large, imbuing your life with a higher purpose and guiding you toward it. So a lot more to build and appreciate about that in future chapters and events, but it felt important to bring it into the conversation today, to couple next to the awareness that the soul is connected to all the planetary knowledge. The soul is also tethered through the presence of the spirit to the larger the larger creative potential in the universe at large. I know we will come back to do a lot more with that, so it's not a concept, but rather something we can feel our way into, imagine our way into, intuit our way into, creatively express our way into, and more. Premise 8, we can each always, every day, evolve and deepen our relationship, our attunement to the soul. And when we do so, we facilitate greater alignment, greater understanding, greater connectedness, greater sense of well-being and intactness. So rather than the soul supporting us anyway, whether we pay attention or not, there is a greater, more of a fully conscious dialogue and conversation. So what I want is to not say more than that, but invite, if there is anything that is arising for you, and actually, Rob, can you give us 2 minutes of musical interlude here, so we can each tune inside and then see if there is anything that anybody would want to offer about what is awakened in you, what is enlivened in you when you open yourself to these soul premises and promises.
I want to say that there are two great pools in us. The one pool is from whatever is old, it's known, it's tried. It might be outdated, and we might feel that it's no longer viable, but it still has a power on us. And it still has its ambassadors that influence us because it's there. So it has a great pull in us. And I think we must not deny it because it only grows its resistance. And then there is another pull, and that when we see it to someone else that has already done a leap to the new, then our soul immediately spots that this is the right thing to do, that this feels good, this feels right. But because maybe the majority is pulling us towards the opposite direction, maybe it needs a little courage to do the leap towards the new. And then immediately when we do that leap, there is assistance. There is great assistance that comes to encourage us to do this leap. And there are great rewards from our soul, and it unleashes a new level of power because the new carries what is potent now, what is fresh. So, but there's still a pull from the past, and still you need to go against the stream in a way. So this is what I would add.
Thank you. Much to develop about these two pools. Thank you, Kiraki. Please, David.
Those premises are just fantastic. And I was thinking about the last one in particular, about the possibility of always evolving in one's relationship to soul. And as Nigel was saying earlier, that the soul is sort of this permeable space, a bridge between self and spirit, and therefore it's somewhere where it's sort of personal. It's my soul and your soul, but there's much more overlap at that level, and that means that one of the most powerful ways of developing relationship with your soul is relationship with other people, relationship with other souls. And maybe even if they're not alive anymore, you know, people you loved.
Yes, to all of the above, and the deeper you open this contemplation, David, the more it begins to bring to mind how and why we said earlier that we're not going to be able to solve the problems we've created in the same mindset that created these problems. But could it be that as we begin to integrate the consideration of the soul, including when if somebody said, I don't know what is my soul, I'm not sure, I was brought up and trained in a scientific background where they told me that consciousness was a property of the chemistry that works in my brain. And I'm persuaded by the scientific evidence for it, but I still feel there is something else, so I want to be open to explore this, to wonder what is the soul. Not just as a poetic idea, in case people use the soul sometimes to poetically describe that they feel fully passionate about something, which is okay too. But is there something beyond that? And so what you're offering and what Nigel offered is the furthering of those contemplations. And could it be that some of the problems we're facing, not just individually, but collectively, humanity, that the intelligence to be unlocked about those can be accessed better with the help of those dimensions of consideration that are at the moment largely out of the conversation in most circumstances. So thank you. So we're approaching the final act, the last 35 minutes of today. So Elite, I can take it for a brief moment, please. You want to say anything about it?
Just a sense of hope that was arising while I was listening to the unfolding of those 8 that loom. And there was just this sort of sense of the sunrise coming up from amongst these sort of great welling cumulus storm clouds.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. Okay, friends, so we were going initially in my plan to now do a piece where we trace to appreciate the axial transition, the transition of the Enlightenment, then the Industrial Revolution, then the Computing Revolution, and appreciate those 4 transitions along the epoch, and then use that as a platform to intuit and imagine what is the intelligence we're gathering about the shift underway for the coming century or 2 or 3. I'm going to skip this, and we'll do this another time. I'm also going to skip a whole other segment about the challenges for the journey in between epochs. One of the key elements we were going to reflect on there is uncertainty, grounded in the understanding and the appreciation that we can't move from one certainty directly to a new certainty. There's no way to move from a balanced equilibrium that provided certainty directly to a new equilibrium. So through the disequilibrium, there has to be a phase of uncertainty. Much like you can't move from this, I can't move from holding the hand like this to this without actually letting go. I know somebody can try and cheat and do this, but it doesn't really work. You have to let go. So what instead I feel called to do is to skip these two segments and spend a little time with this segment, the possibilities appearing and arising in the liminal zone as we learn to embrace the potential of a new epoch that's emerging. And that will leave us just last few minutes to bring a few of your voices to offer a message that's arising with you to all the souls that may be open to your message. So what I'm describing here is not ideals or dreams, but rather real, genuine potentials. And I'll go right for the big one at the start. Spontaneous healing. So, what do we mean by spontaneous healing? The capacity to restore, to renew, to heal in ways that are not limited, not bound by linear processes, planetary speed of healing, but almost instant. Well, we've each probably heard stories, and maybe we know somebody who experienced either spontaneous healing or at least very rapid healing. So a situation when the doctors said, well, that's going to take 3 months. And the healing was accelerated maybe to 1 month or to 3 weeks or to 1 week. So we're talking about something quite extraordinary that becomes accessible. We're talking both about chronic conditions that somebody grappled with for many years, that one day they're able to work through and heal. And then we're talking about spontaneous rapid healing that defies the planetary speed of healing. In other words, there is something faster than the typical speed of what the medical profession largely describes in at least most of the conventional processes of healing. So how is that possible? Well, before I say something about how is that possible, once again, I'm not trying to persuade you that this is real, although you may yourself do some research about spontaneous healing and get some of the stories behind it. Why it's important to note this is because, again, the invitation is to at least make the mental space, open the mental gates that spontaneous healing may be possible. Because if we don't permit it to happen, then even if it is accessible, we may never see, we may never feel, we may never experience spontaneous healing. And I'm not encouraging us to just make belief that ignores reality or ignores data or ignores facts. I'm encouraging us to recognize that there are circumstances And I'm proposing that with the epoch that is emerging, one of the things that it does is that it changes the energetic property that is washing through life, and specifically through human life. In other words, we are now beginning to access more potent, more conductive energies. And one way to think about it is that in previous centuries, and even all the way back to the ancient world, you needed to do extraordinary development. Maybe spend most of your adult life in a special mystery school or a special training to activate certain faculties, to bring the energy from the body up, to switch on the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, two glands that are in most pedestrian way of living and going to work and engaging with general ways of living a life. They only operate at a minimalistic level because they are essentially latent to facilitate the activation of higher faculties. It's not a mistake that you see in ancient art, and even not very ancient art, but in arts of all religious faith and traditions all over the world. You see halos and all sorts of other dimensions around the head. These are real, manifested energetic properties that get switched on when those latent faculties are activated. So part of what is proposed with the idea of spontaneous healing is that spontaneous healing, one of the ways it occurs is when the human system is washed with more potent, more conductive, higher form of energy. And part of what I'm proposing is that it's not that the development that somebody did in 40 or 50 years of life in the past, that you can do it just like this. That would not be a true statement. What I'm saying is that because of the intensification of the new epoch that's arriving, there may be the capacity in a person, if their heart is in the right place, if their sentiment is attuned and oriented in a way that's conducive and conductive and attuned to whatever may offer those conductivities access, then there can be a transformative spontaneous healing. In other words, a person can, and increasingly I anticipate in the coming decades, through one line, the line of care, the line of compassion, the line of kindness and generosity, the line of reverence, the line of love and appreciation. A person may be able to open their system to energy that can catalyze, accelerate the cellular regeneration, such that even nerve cells will grow faster. I know it sounds science fiction, but I propose that we have already evidence for that, and that the coming decades will bring increasing evidence for that. So that was the big one. Let me bring some accompanying ones. Well, I propose that spontaneous transformation, the ability to instantly shift into upgraded and higher states of being, comes along with what I'm describing as this intensified conductivity of the epoch that's emerging, that when we are in the liminal zone and search and seek how to attune to it, we may experience in the first place as confusion, as being overwhelmed. Once we are able to begin to learn to embrace the potential of this new epoch, then spontaneous transformation becomes available, and spontaneous perception. We may experience emergent capability, emergent capacity, accessed through elevated perspectives, elevated awareness, where we spontaneously may be able to transcend prior limitations, and where we are able to rapidly and spontaneously update our meaning maps. So it has become increasingly popular again in recent decades to seek these kind of outcomes through psychedelics and even through microdosing. What I'm describing is something that doesn't require psychedelics and involves no external chemistry, but rather is built on the premise that the most advanced pharmaceutical and chemical production unit in the known universe, in the material universe, is the brain. And so indeed, when we're able to enter advanced states, communion, deeper sentiments, we can catalyze the chemistry within the brain that will afford us extraordinary and new perceptions. Building on that is the spontaneous forgiveness and absolvement, the alchemical power to transmogrify, to let go. So we have each perhaps had the small experience that you struggled with something for a long time, then one morning you get up and it was released. You no longer struggle with it. So you know what I'm describing here. Just imagine that becomes much more potent, and the capacity, that alchemical capacity, becomes accessible, both in our interiority and also in interpersonal relationships. There was a mention of the quality of trust before. Imagine that we're able to access that in a profound way. So that comes with a spontaneous sense of peace and love, the ability to generate agreement, encouragement, trust, uplift, love, and peace in the present moment, unburdened by the past. Imagine what may become possible for humanity when we understand that is actually a first nature for us, that being human means I can let go of my pain. Imagine that we were able to pivot from I define myself by my pain and my trauma and my grudges and all that I've suffered, and I will not move before I get recognition for the pain that I suffered. And I don't dismiss at all that, because that is an internal conditioning. That we hold on to this because we want to be seen for our pain. And we now define being human very much with that, but imagine that we discover that it is as human to release the pain of yesterday, to take in a new breath into today. And finally, imagine that spontaneous connection and regeneration, the creation of regenerative and novel, luminous connections and communion becomes possible with high presences and high essences. So I would want to offer that all these are possible and will become increasingly possible in the decades to come. And I don't ask you to believe anything I say, but to explore and open the mental gates for these possibilities in your own experience, in your own life. So I am looking at the clock, and I wanted to make sure that we include this. And I'm going to skip this entire next part. And this was the pivots. I'm going to skip this. I think I'm going to skip this as well because I want to bring your voices. So that was 7 areas of study, and I want to invite your voices to whoever feels ready to speak or to sing or to play music with a message that you feel called to offer. First of all, to your own soul, then to all the souls that are yearning on the journey between epochs to be fortified, to be strengthened. I'm going to go quiet for a moment, and then we will see who is ready to come forward. Thank you. Okay, friends, so I am going to see if I can put on the spot. We don't play ageism, but but I do want to hear from some of the younger people here, because I will disclose the following. For me, this work now is very, very important in the sense of people between 20 to 40, and if you're 45, that's okay too. And if you're 50, that's okay too. But I'm very interested in the intelligence that's arising with the younger generation, the leaders of tomorrow, the counselors of tomorrow, the healers of tomorrow, the pathfinders of tomorrow, people that my grandkids will look up to because they're coming into leadership. So I would want to, I'd be negligent if I didn't put you on the spot, few here, and ask you to offer either a response to what's on the slide or whatever else you want to, by way of bringing your voice, because your voice is very important. I didn't call names, but you know who I'm speaking to. So please.
Well, I guess I'm within that age range, so I'll step up and say a couple of words. And thank you for creating the space and the space for us to speak as well.
Who's speaking, please? Is it
Sorry,
Ari?
this is Ari.
Ari?
Yes. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. And apologies, I have 2 screens going. My computer's not working very well. But anyway, I think I'm just still very curious about the kind of tension between the active participation in driving the unfolding and sort of the passive aspect of just letting this all happen and finding the in-between way between those 2 poles. And, part of me just wants to let go and just trust that our souls all know what needs to be done, and that we'll find our way into this new future. And then another part of me wants to say that that's not enough, and that we need to be more active and fight, and bring the light more intensely into the world. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be up to each person to find where they land on that sort of spectrum. And I think for some of us, we just need to hold it in our hearts and trust that it'll spread to others just by way of our being. And then I think in some other cases, people do need to go out into the world and fight. And fighting is probably the wrong word, but stand up for something and bring power and energy. And yeah, I'm just struck with the need to, I think trust just keeps coming to my mind. Just know where your own talents lie, what your own unique gifts are, and lean into that, and just create space for whatever's coming through for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ari. It is easier to follow your heart and trust what's in your heart when you are with others in conversation who are seeking to do the same. So there is a lot that can be fortified by finding togetherness with others. I appreciate very much that you're offering us the neutral position of just see that there is a permission to be all along that spectrum. There isn't one place that's right, but you can choose to be anywhere you choose to be along that spectrum. Thank you. Please, Levi.
Yes, for me, thank you as well for inviting us. For me, what I'm with mostly is the question how can you keep your soul, how can you make choices that will be most beneficial to your soul and its sensitivities. And for me, I think these kind of groups are really uplifting, and it's such a completely, it changes your way of thinking, and you notice you can let things go that you thought you couldn't let go just a minute ago. And so I think I think these groups or these we spaces are very important, and that's very that's what I'm with right now.
Thank you, Levi. Please, Jakob. Am I remembering to pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. I think I want to specifically respond to what is here, like what I feel called to offer. And so the world that I've been inhabiting for quite some years was a world in which not just a lot is possible in the what. So we have organized information, and with that, the technological possibility to eradicate poverty, eradicate all diseases, as you spoke to with the genome. And I think what has happened is that although we have the what, we don't yet really have managed to do the how properly, quote unquote. So we still have some of the old power structures in place, and we also don't really have the mental capacities to believe that there is a new way that's possible. And what I want to say is that coming from and living and practicing the world of organizing the world's information and organizing human beings through communication, through note-taking systems, through other forms, practicing this craftsmanship and the art of that, I see that the infrastructure for how our souls want to live is latently there.
Mm-hmm.
And the inner move that I think we're called to do is to claim the power that we have unconsciously delegated to others.
let me say back to you what I received from your transmission there to make sure I hear you correctly. I think you said the gap, the how gap, is partly because we have disenfranchised ourselves. And you are inviting us to reclaim the inner capacity. And that part of the how, part of the gap of the how is to be answered through that. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes, and I personally like the not like, oh, we have disenfranchised ourselves or someone has disempowered us. Rather, there is a maturation that needs to happen.
Right.
That some of us have done and others of us, most of us, haven't yet. And it is through this claiming our own capacity as leaders, as also Hoop spoke to, and our capacity to have the power to see, having the power to create what we want to see happen in ourselves, because so much is already there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nusha, please, you're going to bring us home before we're going to have Nusha and Areti. So we promised that this is going to land in 3 minutes. If you had other commitments, we completely understand that you need to leave. I'm not going to miss an opportunity to hear from Nusha and then from Areti, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aviv, for this very special event. And yeah, it feels like it could have been a day long to explore all those possibilities. What I feel called to share and that I am inspired to, like what this session has left me with, this exploration is what you pointed to at some point, which was to create the space, the quiet to hear my soul, to hear my intuition, to hear the nudgings. And you mentioned that the soul is always, guiding us and protecting us to move in that direction that we're meant to. And that's where there's the abundance and the prosperity, and we're held. And so that carriage in between the old and the new, there's like a pause, like within the breath. So to create that pause and to listen. And it's through that and not through my mind. It's through my intuition and through my soul's urgings that I can move forward from the old into the new, to transition. So thank you so much for this event. It was very enlightening and helped me connect with a lot of things inside me, and just some reminders of how to move in between the two.
Thank you. Thank you, Nusha. A lot more to be said about everything that is being said. I'm very tempted to go on a whole other opening promoted, but I'm mindful of the time, so I'm going to go to Areti, please.
What I would like to add to all of this is kind of like basically kind of a part of what everyone has mentioned, and I feel like trust especially is a thing that was mentioned a lot. Self-trust and all those natural systems that will guide you to where you need to be. And I feel like openness is also really important, so that when you are in that liminal space, that obviously to, first of all, give space to yourself, but also be open enough to receive everything that this new version of you and your consciousness has to give you. Because I think that all of us feel like, as everyone mentioned before, obviously, all this fear and uncertainty about leaping into a new age of the world. And I think it's very important to not only trust, but be open to see what this new version of yourself and of everyone around you has to give you. Because if you're not open, you're never going to be able to get the courage and to kind of leap into all these new things that are happening around you. So for me, I feel like the two most important things is to trust yourself and your natural systems, that they know what is best for you, and be open to go with the flow and receive everything that the new version of yourself and the new version of the world has to give you and offer you.
These are very good closing words from already. You just brought us home. Invitation to trust, invitation to be open.
Yes, I think those two things are the most important when it comes to leaping into this new age.
Thank you. Thank you very much already. So, friends, thank you for staying with us along this journey. It's always good to know that we landed and covered only 60% of the content that appeared for that, so there is more there to get to another time. And yeah, I would like to invite Lisa, anything from you as housekeeping before we close?
Yeah, just one thing. Well, first to say thank you so much, Aviv. Thank you, everyone. And I, as all of you have said, will take with me, and I wrote some words. I'm strengthened, I'm nourished, I'm hopeful. And this exploration and gathering of intelligence, it causes so much settlement. And the one thing I wanted to call over, I loved your little description of how you're holding on and then you have to let go and grab again, and to be really settled in the uncertainty, because that's one of the things that I'm going to take with me today, is really let that uncertainty just be with me and not to let it take over me. So that's what I would say. And again, just to thank you and to thank everyone for coming, because if you don't join us, then this can't happen. And just before we go, just a little note, if you would like to make a donation to the Portals of Perception endeavor, you can go to the website so that we can continue our work out into the world, and your help and support is always so appreciated. So thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you to the Portals team. And thank you all for coming. Let's bring all our voices to the room and greet each other with a good day, a good evening.
You.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Along with our website at portalsofperception.org, Portals is also available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms, as well as social media. You can become an active member and join the conversation in community events. And you can help us get the word out by liking this content and by sharing it with your friends.